I mean, this is an impossible task for the committee. It's an impossible task for the committee. Somebody's getting left out, and in this case, a few somebodies that are deserving. All right, we're here watching the college football playoff show live, and there was some drama yesterday. There's going to be somebody left out that's a deserving team. You have Pac-12 winner Washington in for sure. You have Big Ten winner Michigan in for sure. I think the controversy is going to come between, you've got it 2 of 3 of either Florida State, who's undefeated without their starting quarterback, now down to their third-string quarterback. And then you have, and they're an undefeated conference champion, you've got Texas, who won the Big 12 convincingly. And then you've got Alabama that just beat Georgia. For the first time in 30 games, they beat Georgia. And obviously of note is that Texas beat Alabama by 14 on the road in Tuscaloosa earlier this season. So one of those 3 teams get left out. Now, there is some criteria, I guess, for the playoff committee, and that is unavailability of key players. Hold on, the show's getting started, so keep that in mind. Michigan. Michigan, number 1. Washington, number 2. If Texas is 3, watch out. Is this Texas? Texas. So they've just opened the door for Florida State to get left out. So you've got Texas with a rematch with Washington from last year's bowl game. That's right. That's a tough draw for the Huskies. It's a good one, though. Oh, number 4, Alabama. Wow, they actually did it. Wow. Wow. Are you kidding me? Wow. Whoa. Wow, that is absolutely unprecedented. Never has there been an undefeated conference champion not get into the playoffs. This is exactly why we're going to go to a 12-team format next year, and I'm pretty sure America could not be happier. So there's so many good teams left out. You've got Florida State out, Georgia out, you have Ohio State out, and that is crazy. Those are all teams that could win. I think Oregon's really good. They would be a fun playoff team to watch. Wow, I'm actually a little bit floored by this. Really good matchup, it looks like. So the Sugar Bowl is going to be Washington and Texas. That's a rematch of last year's New Year's Six Bowl. And then Michigan and Alabama. That's going to be a good game. But I'm going to be more excited to watch that Washington-Texas game because there's just a lot of storylines right there. You've got Steve Sarkisian, Kalen DeBoer. You've got Ryan Grubb, who I think is the best play caller in all of college football, against Steve Sarkisian, who is also among the best play callers, which is crazy. And he's really turned the culture around at Texas. Michigan and Alabama. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, all the drama they've been through. Alabama, the way they started the season, got dominated by Texas and just turned it around after the South Florida game. This is aside from the fact that I'm shocked that Florida State, semi-shocked, but just like, wow, I was thinking it could happen. And then when I read through the criteria this morning about the player unavailability of key players, that really was the last thing I think I needed to know, because I actually didn't know that prior to reading it this morning. I had seen this post on Twitter and I read it, and there it was. And so I knew at that point Alabama was likely to take that spot, but it's still unprecedented and still kind of a shock. The Michigan-Alabama game, that's going to be a very hard-hitting physical game. And my initial thoughts are that these are both going to be really good semifinal games. I'm not seeing the average, 19-point differential in the semifinal games is what we've had in the past. Something like that. It's that or plus. I am thinking that these are going to be highly competitive games. I'm going to be really interested because Texas plays really good defense. Washington obviously has the offense. Michigan, solid all around, but in my opinion, not elite in explosiveness. I don't view them as better than Georgia, but Alabama just beat them. But again, matchups are everything. So we went through this on the last show, transitive property, comparing the common opponents and all that. We'll do it again, right? But you saw how many times that the game still had to be played on the field where metrics just didn't matter, right? Metrics just didn't matter. It's talent on the field, playmakers, and it's impossible to predict when playmakers are going to show up, make plays, make mistakes, like what's going to happen. And so that's what makes this so much fun in what we do. Did the committee make the right call? Okay, so that's a really good question. So if it's the 4 best teams, right now the 4 best teams probably made the right call. 4 most deserving teams, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. Texas, I mean, you have undefeated Florida State. They did everything that they were supposed to do. That's where my heart goes out to Florida State is you do everything you're supposed to do, and it's a team game, and it's supposed to be next man up. And they showed at quarterback it was next man up because Jordan Travis was incredible. He's top 4 quarterback, probably performing-wise in the country. He goes down. You have your second-string quarterback. He goes down. You have your third-string quarterback, and you still go win an ACC championship. Now, people could say that they're down or whatever, but they're deserving. To be deserving, you win your schedule. And so that's where I feel really bad for those guys. I don't think if they played Alabama or Texas or Washington or Michigan, I wouldn't pick Florida State to beat them just simply because they don't have Jordan Travis. And it's a testament to how good that guy is and how good of a team they are. They may have been the best team in the country. Who knows? Hard to say at this point. So I think they got it. I think the committee got it right as far as the best 4 teams, but I think in this case, the 4 most deserving teams, they did not get it right. The question that was posed to me is how I feel about Georgia, who was number 1 all season, then dropping to number 6. I think that's appropriate. I mean, they didn't win their conference. They had their chance. They did everything else they were supposed to do. You know, I thought going in, maybe they were a team that could afford to lose that championship game and still get in. But with the way things shook out, obviously, I think under the criteria, is Georgia one of the 4 best teams? They would certainly have an argument. I certainly would have them favored in against all of those teams, but they didn't get it done on the field. So that's a really good question as well. I mean, Georgia would definitely be in the conversation of the best 4 teams still. This is just why I'm really happy that we're going to a 12-team playoff. This is long overdue. I mean, this is an impossible task for the committee. It's an impossible task for the committee. Somebody's getting left out. You know, and in this case, a few somebodies that are deserving. If you take these teams right here, take these 4 teams that are left out, and you take Florida State, Georgia, you take Ohio State, and you take Oregon, and you put those 4 teams in a playoff, and then you have the champion of those meet. Would you pick the 4 teams there and their champion versus the 4 other teams? Whoever would to come out of that bracket, think about that title game. That's why we're going to 12 teams. Okay, so the question is, how does 1 and 4, the rankings themselves, 1 through 4, 1 and 4, 2 and 3, how does that affect the matchups there? If you had Washington at 1 instead of Michigan, Washington would have been playing in the Rose Bowl. Instead, this is a tough draw right here because, Texas is much closer to the Sugar Bowl. And then you've got Michigan that's got to head out west. Alabama's heading out west. That's kind of it is what it is. If you look at Washington and Texas, that definitely, I think, is advantage Texas as far as location and probably the ability for fans to travel. I don't know if Alabama would have been such a favorable matchup for Washington, just the way they play defense. I would have really liked to see that. But we're going to see a really good defense in Texas. It definitely had an effect, especially between Washington and Michigan. Washington would have much preferred to be out west playing in the Rose Bowl. So the question was about player availability and how that factored into this playoffs versus maybe past ones. And it's incredibly important that you understand that is part of the criteria to make sense of these rankings. So if you didn't know that is part of it. I just learned it this morning, but the reason they're talking about it so much, it really hasn't been a factor except for, in 2014, the first year, it had to have been a factor. But Ohio State had Cardale Jones come in. JT Barrett goes down. The second stringer goes down. And then all of a sudden, you have this kid, Cardale Jones. Well, the difference was, they put up a bunch of points. They flat out embarrassed Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship. So they had that on their resume. They had this chance to show Cardale, and the offense didn't skip a beat. Arguably, it got better. And so they looked like a better team. That's the last time I remember a super key injury like this from a quarterback coming in. And in this case, Florida State had their chance. They kind of had 2 chances, first at Florida, and then here last night in the ACC championship game, and they couldn't get it done. They looked like a completely different team. They were in a rock fights in both of those games, and it just you could tell as the commissioner said, the offensive firepower just wasn't there. The offensive dynamic, I think, is the word that he used. So, it's incredibly important, and it was a big part of why the committee chose Alabama over Florida State. If Florida State comes out and they scored 40 points, I think we'd be having a different conversation this morning if they beat Louisville really bad. But their offense just, I mean, it looked anemic yesterday. And Louisville's defense is good, and so, but I'm sure they considered that, but they're not as good as holding Florida State to 16 points. You have Jordan Travis in there; they're probably scoring 30, and that game's probably a blowout. So the question is, has the committee made a statement by putting Alabama over FSU? Yeah, I think their statement is they think that the Jordan Travis injury was too much to overcome. And then he'd also said that who do you want to play, who do you not want to play? And I think people would have rather played Florida State than Alabama.